So you just taste a bunch of cakes?
Yeah, I don't understand what you don't understand about this.
I feel like you'd be going like, well, that one tastes like cake. Oh, that one tastes like cake. Cake is cake. How do you choose a cake?
The fuck do you mean cake is cake?
Law rule never make me pipe.
Rule live.
God damn it, I forgot it was Monday. Fuck.
Roll.
Live faster.
Eli, Heath, what the fuck are you guys doing?
What do you mean? What are we doing? We're doing our before the show shenanigans. We do our
before the show. Before the show.
Yeah, we when somebody else writes the lines for you and then you repeat them and we do a little shenanigans.
Shenanigans.
I don't understand what you guys are. My essay is on the Taiping Rebellion this week.
Yeah, well, you kind of walked in the middle, so I'd already thrown the typewriter at Heath.
God damn it.
I see. Guys, you know the Taiping Rebellion was a civil war fought in China between two kingdoms, right? One of which was called Taiping.
I told you.
Oh.
Yeah.
So
that's exactly what I said.
So there were no typewriter fights.
No typewriter fights.
But I can keep the makeup.
No, you cannot.
You cannot. No.
I quit. I'm not going to say lacism. I quit before that happens.
He actually did quit it.
You deliver that goddamn line. You deliver that goddamn line. Fuck you.
Howdy, partner. And welcome to Citation Needed, the podcast where we choose a subject, read a single article about it on Wikipedia, and pretend we're the experts. Because this is the internet, and that's how it works now. I'm Tom, and I'll be thrusting deep into your ear canal today, but I won't be the only one inside you. First up, two men whose exponential beard growth threatens to overtake all the arable land on Earth by 2026, Heath and Cecil.
I actually started mining the spice when I trim it. It's pretty addictive. Pretty addictive.
The old spice must flow.
And also joining us are the two people that belong in restaurants even less than the dogs from Lady and the Tramp, Noah and Eli.
Just saying, Patreon goal, me and Cecil will noodle kiss.
The audience literally doesn't have enough liquid capital to make that happen.
You hear that, listeners? I think Cecil just issued you a challenge.
Well, I'm going to throw up. But before we get started, I want to remind everybody who just got $5 from Grandma and thought, well, what the fuck can I buy with that? And we'd be happy to take it. I mean, heck, we'll take more if you insist. Yeah, if you'd like to learn how to give us your money, be sure to stick around till the end of the show. With that out of the way, Eli, what person, place, thing, concept, phenomenon, or event will we be talking about today?
Today, we'll be talking about the Taiping Rebellion, which, after the opening sketch, I assume is a broad noodle, the flat ones.
No.
That are spicy, right?
Very unlikely. Noah, you earned your BS in this subject over the weekend. Are you ready to enlighten the masses?
I am, Tom. This is actually a topic I've wanted to cover since we started the show.
Well, that's because you're boring as hell. So no one is surprised. What was the Taiping Rebellion?
It was a rebellion fought in China in the mid-19th century between the ruling dynasty and a guy who thought he was Jesus' little brother.
Noah.
Yes, sir.
We're going to laugh at the deaths of hundreds of thousands of people tonight, aren't we?
No. This is China, so millions, tens of millions of people. Some estimates are as high as 100 million, actually.
Do you guys think we need to, get some kind of Holocaust veto system for the show?
Overruled. That's actually my next essay. You're just spoiling.
No.
Okay.
So when does the Taiping Rebellion start?
Actually, it started on January 1st, so this is topical, of 1851, but I'm going to start a little earlier than that.
Yeah, of course you are. Yeah.
So what you have to understand about China in 1851 is that you've got a culture that spent the last several thousand years pretty sure they were the greatest civilization on the planet, and most of the time they were right. But throughout the 18th and into the 19th century, they were hard at work learning that best culture doesn't matter if it doesn't come with biggest guns.
Yeah, it turns out it's really easy to pry someone's culture out of their cold, dead hands.
It turns out.
Really yeah, right. Easy. Case in point, Eminem, right?
Greatest rapper of all time. Greatest rapper of all time.
What? Racist.
So here you've got.
Don't you mean lacist? The brilliant thing that I wrote at the end of my sketch that you ruined because they're not reading our fucking skits? Don't you mean lacist, Heath?
No, he didn't.
Nope.
So here we've got a once great nation that's hanging on by a thread, a series of defeats at the hand of various Western powers, long-term economic problems, a population explosion, series of natural disasters, and a British-mandated blight of opium addiction had left the ruling Qing dynasty with a pretty slippery grip on power.
Yeah, you couldn't have that big a population explosion. We hadn't invented diesel fuel and fertilizer yet. So.
Yes. That dude ruined Invictus, am I right?
Now, at the same time that all of this shit's going on, overtaxed farmers are abandoning their farms to become bandits because that's more profitable at this point. And the weak central government can't do shit about the banditry, so local villages and cities are starting to form their own armies to fend off the bandits. And you just wind up with small-scale wars popping up all over the country. Basically, the whole fucking country was a kung fu movie premise by 1830 or so.
This whole story is just missing a white guy that fights alongside him to show what it means to be really Chinese.
All right, so the broad noodle guy created a hybrid of all the fighting styles and took over China. There's a pagoda with 5 floors. He got to the boss's top one. took over China. So then what happened?
So it was very, very close, yeah. So into this environment is born one Hong Jiquan. He's a poor kid from a mountain town in southern China. Now, back then, China had a system of imperial exams that you could take to advance your way through society. Right, so basically, if you could pass these exams, it was the equivalent of having an advanced degree, and it meant you could work as a government official, you could get a well-paying job. So passing those exams was the best way for a destitute kid to advance in life. And Hong Jiquan quickly showed himself to be amazingly good at failing these exams.
Huh. I guess you can't just copy off the Asian kid in China. Right? Some of them have to be stupid, right?
So,
are there stupid Chinese people?
Yeah.
There's got to be some.
He's trying to make up for the racist thing earlier. Yeah. So after one of his many failures, Hong went home to be all butthurt about it for a few days. And during that time, he experienced a series of mystical visions. You see, years earlier, some Christian asshole had stuffed a pamphlet in his hand, and for lack of a nearby bin, he'd held on to it. And based on no understanding of Christianity beyond what was written in that pamphlet, he declared himself not only to be Christian, but also to be the younger brother of Jesus.
Motherfucking Craig Christ. Interesting. Different mother, I guess. So God's racially pretty cool.
The Jews didn't even have a pamphlet to work off of. This guy must have killed it.
Right?
Hell yeah.
I gotta say, though, it does seem like an odd way to try to gain power, right? Like, what was Jesus like as a kid? He was cool, really down to earth. Anyway, back to me.
Now, see, generally speaking, when you start calling yourself Jesus's brother, you don't attract a lot of followers, especially in non-Christian countries. But included in Hong's religious awakenings was a direct order from God to kill the fuck out of the much-hated government, which was a far more palatable message than my dad is God.
Is it weird that Trump is going with both messages, though?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Honestly, I would just be relieved if he announced he was the son of God tomorrow. It'd be like finally getting broken up with after you stop fucking. You know that, like, yeah. 1 second, I got a playlist I've been working on for the last month and a half while we had awkward brunches with your friends and you smiled at me without your eyes. Everybody hurts.
All right, so Hong sets out to get some Christian cred, and he starts off studying under a Baptist missionary named Issachar J. Cox Roberts.
J. Cox.
Right? But
Cox, I almost missed that.
But Roberts refused to baptize him and later said that Hong and his followers were, quote, bent on making their burlesque religious pretensions serve their political purpose, end quote.
Oh, okay, so a religion. We have a word for that. It's religion.
Yeah.
He also wound up telling the guy, come back when you're white.
Delightsome.
And Jack Walks Roberts eventually became Michael Jackson.
So,
True
but
story.
dunked or undunked,
Jack Walks
Hong
Roberts.
went out to preach his weird perversion of the gospel. In 1844, he founded the God-Worshipping Society, a society dedicated to worshiping God.
Pretty on the nose.
Yeah, to a fervent belief in whatever the fuck Hong Ji Quan was on about that day. Soon after its founding, though, they got a bunch of bandits and pirates on board. And once the bandits and pirates are with you, everybody pretty much assumes you're cool, I think.
Yeah, and the baptisms are way cooler when you walk the plank.
Yeah, good
Right?
point.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
I'm
Way
not at all
cooler.
religious, but like bandits and pirates, I could be convinced.
Yeah.
This is my.
Right.
What's the difference between a bandit and a pirate? Like, if a pirate goes far enough inland, are they a bandit?
A boat?
Do they have to change clothes?
Boats.
Yeah,
it's
that's
definitely
boats.
boats.
Yeah.
It's boat
Now-
related.
Now, needless to say, the emperor didn't like the idea of a society dedicated to overthrowing him one way or the other, but it was even worse when said group also taught that you and your entire ethnic group were literally demons from hell. So he sent around some folks to deal with the God-worshipping society in 1851, and they were repulsed by a small force of God worshippers, and the bloodiest civil war in history was on.
To be fair, I generally find God worshippers repulsive, so no surprise there.
I'm just picturing a nerd from like the old timey Chinese FFRF showing up with a letter and getting just beheaded by a Christian ninja. Like, how is that not a David A.R. White movie already? That's
Let me
perfect.
and it's on PureFlix. I just checked. But in this case, it's the FFLF.
Yeah.
It's a
No,
great
wait.
joke that I wish we could all appreciate.
Religion?
The war ramps up slowly from here. You tricked him into it. It's like getting Mixelplick to say his name backwards. Well done, Eli.
Yeah, I tricked
So
Heath
the-
into racism.
So the war ramps up slowly from here, as civil wars so often do. But shit really hits the fan in 1853 when the rebels took Nanjing. They renamed it Tianjin, which means heavenly capital, so they're not even fucking trying for creativity. And that would remain the Taiping capital until the end of the rebellion and Hong's death in 1860. Spoiler alert, those two things are related.
Heavenly capital. Isn't that what Joel Osteen writes on his taxes? With a lot of zeros.
He doesn't pay
Yeah,
taxes. That's fine.
So once they got their new capital, the first thing they have to do is kill all the Manchu men on account of them being demons.
Okay, what a question. What if you were only half Manchu? Did they kill you if you were full Manchu?
You mean
Is that Fu?
Fu Manchu? Is that what you're...
Is that what that is?
Yeah.
So mean, guys.
Fu Manchu
I
is what
love that joke. I love that joke. I was waiting for that all script. I love that joke.
Fu. I thought it was full Manchu.
Oh,
Honestly, I thought they were pronouncing it weird because, you know. Jingle
It
jangle.
always comes back to the L's, doesn't
jingle,
it?
jangle.
Now-
Did you say jingle?
Now, it's important not to undersell the ethnic end of this. And by that, I mean the story, not this episode. For centuries, the Han Chinese were in charge of things in China, but the current dynasty at this time was ruled by the Manchus. And a big part of Hong's appeal was his bit about them all being demons. So as little as his interpretation of Christianity had in common with the Western traditions, at least they could both agree that you should use it to make people hate those that they perceive as different. The keys were still the same.
And they all took their tiki torches and they stood around the statue. Yeah, I remember this.
There's good men on both sides.
Yeah, and they went to Jewish bakeries asking for swastika cakes. It's a very complicated thing.
Jewish.
Jewish.
So,
Thank
anyway.
you. Jewish.
Anyway, from there they launched multiple expeditions to gain territory nearby, and Hong, having pretty much won in his mind, decided to get about the business of being Jesus' little brother. That business apparently, by the way, included a very luxurious lifestyle, random written proclamations, and a lot of young women in his inner chamber.
And then his wife defended him by pointing out that they have a a lawyer who's a Chew. The press conference.
Looks like they were trading who was going to come into whose inner chamber, too.
You know what they say? It's good to be Nanjing.
Terrible.
So as you might imagine, it's about now that Hong's inner circle is starting to question his ambitions, right? People signed on to this rebellion because they hated the ruling class, but now that they were actually being governed by a dude who thought he was God's kid and Manchus were demons, they were starting to have second thoughts. So shortly after this, we have a series of purges where Hong has everybody with any claim to power executed along with their families.
Those Purge movies would have been so much better in 1850s China. That would have been.
They were
so fun.
documentaries is the problem.
Yeah, those people didn't know right from wrong.
See, Eli, that's how it's
dare
done.
you?
That's
How
it's
dare
done.
you?
But
This is
now, of course, it wasn't just the inner circle that was starting to chafe under Hong's rule. Traditionalists in the Chinese society weren't big on the whole kill all the people in charge message in general, especially if they were in charge. But the ideology of Taiping Christianity was also just batshit fucking crazy, even compared to Christianity. Right, so included in their social reforms were strict separation of the sexes, land socialization, suppression of private trade, and, of course, the destruction of Buddhist temples and libraries. And as if that wasn't enough to piss off all the Buddhists, landowners, and merchants, they also came out against foot binding. What's more, they were even worse at governing than the government, and Wikipedia described their rule as, quote, remarkably ineffective, haphazard, and brutal, end quote.
Remarkably ineffective, haphazard, and brutal. That is my managerial style described perfectly. I love
Also, Wikipedia.
in my head. There's a guy who foot binding was the final straw for. Just like, yuck! Seriously, women walking around in size 7s. We gotta kill this guy. Demons or not.
Well, if that's already taken, we need to think of a new tagline for the show. So while we ponder that, we're going to take a quick break for a little apropos of nothing.
People of Taiping, I, your new ruler.
Hey, hold on. Wait a minute. Why don't you have a Chinese accent?
Well, we tried to do that, but then Heath quit. It got uncomfortable in here.
Yeah, that's really something only
that's
my
me.
character
Okay.
can get away with.
Cool. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. No. Go ahead.
Right, yeah. Anyway, now that we've risen up, there will be some changes. First, we kill everyone who has any power. Second,
Sorry. I feel like I'm being that guy.
Well, then
but,
just stop being that guy.
yeah.
Okay, no,
for example.
no, not going to do that. But so does that include us? Because we have power now. So
That's actually a good question.
Right? Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, I'm not telling you to kill yourselves, just the people who used to have power.
okay, got it. Used to have power.
Also, no more Buddhists or free trade or tiny little feet.
Okay, yeah. Just sorry. One last
Seriously?
thing.
Come
Come
on.
on, man.
We're so close to lunch, and if you could stop asking questions.
Just one other question. So those make sense. Just why the no small feet thing though? That one.
It's
that's weird.
it's personal.
This guy gets it.
Okay, and we're back from that culturally sensitive reenactment. Well done, guys. Well done. I'm not at all embarrassed. I have children that I hope never find this. Now, Noah, when we last,
Hi, Shmoo.
I have so many children. I hope don't find this. No, when we
I don't know
last
the rest
left
of your
off,
names. Hi. I was the best man at your dad's wedding. You know what I mean? I made
No.
a scene.
Hey, maybe you're busy April 20th. Just all right, now, Noah, when we last left off, I believe you were making light of one of the deadliest wars in human history.
I was, Tom. And so were you. So don't act so fucking high and mighty about it.
All right, I won't act that way. I'll just sit here and feel superior then. Because I'm better than you. Before the break, the Taiping rebels had taken Nanjing as their capital, and the populace was starting to chafe under their rule. So what happened next?
Well, Tom, I'll get to that. But before I do, I think it's important to broaden our scope and talk a bit about the global context of this
Oh
war.
my fucking God, of course you do. This is the part, everybody, where Noah takes us on a world tour of every culture ever, their proud history, their conflicts, cultural traditions, while the rest of us sit here and browse new submissions on Pornhub.
All right, we'll have fun with that, Tom. See, Britain had just fought a whole war to secure their right to addict this country to opium, and their internal war was fucking up the trade. So they were tempted to enter the war on the side of the Qing dynasty.
The old CIA when the Crips and the Bloods were fighting conundrum, because, you know, the CIA introduced crack cocaine into the black population in the 1980s.
No, we discussed this already recently.
Nope.
Nope, it wasn't the
disagree.
70s or the 80s. Nope.
Agree to disagree.
Also, nope. Not agreeing to that. We already talked about it.
So now, because they were horrible and white, the British also had sympathies for Hong Ji-quan.
Wow. This is a dumb one. This is stealing money from foreigners or Christianity. It's like the Sophie's choice of white history.
Yeah, well, exactly. See, he might have been crazy, dangerous, revolutionary, and proto-communist, but he was Christian. And how bad could Jesus' little brother really be? Plus, Hong was racist against Chinese people, so he and the Brits were a natural fit. Like born allies. But because of this, the Brits and the Western powers in general officially remained neutral through the entire war.
Yeah, the Brits have always been kind of the Switzerland of colonial genocide. So
You got to always have a Brexit strategy. Yeah. They should have saved more of that Chinese Nazi gold, though. Maybe pounds wouldn't be wampum at this point.
At a certain point, everybody had to admit that Hong was a fucking nut. So there were some unofficial European military advisors stepping in to help out the Qing dynasty at this point. And while that probably helped militarily, it didn't help him win any popular support, since one of the main grievances Hong was tapping into was frustration with the Manchu government being in the pockets of the Western powers.
Okay, but here's what I don't get. The rebellion is led by a crazy person, and the people are turning against that. Why can't the central government just roll over it?
Oh, I'm guessing the National Really Big Sword Association made sure everybody's well armed to prevent tyranny like that. Safer.
You know what they say? The only way to defeat a bad guy with a sword is with a gun. This fell apart. I'm sorry. I'm still reeling about Garrison Keillor. It's just a lot going on.
Still rich, just saying. Garrison, call me.
No, actually, it's because the central government was possibly even more incompetent than the Taiping army. Basically, since the Taiping took Nanjing, the central government had bogged itself down in a bloody siege to retake that city and managed to go nowhere with that for years. And no matter how unsuccessful that was, they just kept pouring more people into it.
I get it. It's like the New York public subway system.
Lots of public masturbation?
I mean, both.
So keep in mind, too, that the country was fractured before this rebellion ever started, and there were huge swaths of China that were under the control of regional warlords, far more so than the central government anyway. So it's not like they had a solid political base to draw from here.
yeah, and all Britain had to do is get some weapons to the Chinese ISIS, and the problem solves itself, you know?
Well, the King of England actually had a plan to defeat ISIS in 30 days.
Jesus Christ.
But everyone was being mean, so he kept it secret and never did it. Could have taken out ISIS really easily.
Oh, but the fucking quit the lacism was too bad for you. I
didn't say lysis. I could have said that would have been racist.
So luckily for people who wanted other people to stop dying by the millions, I guess.
Okay, we're called Jews, Noah. We're called...
Well, then why do you start all the wars, Eli?
All right, well,
why do you start all those wars? Eventually, one competent army did show up on the field. The Taiping army had been spreading east from their southwestern stronghold, and eventually they were bearing down on Shanghai from two directions.
That is fucking hot.
You have no idea. So losing Shanghai would have been a major blow to the ruling dynasty that might have cost them their last pinch of grip on power.
I just got it.
So they invested heavily in the defense of Shanghai. And this is where the ever-victorious army enters the picture.
Losing Shanghai is also the name of a rom-com starring Emma Stone as the native.
But her roommate is a pirate who thinks he's Jesus, coming this fall to Fox. Right after Blackish.
Wouldn't be surprised. Now, I feel like the ever victorious army sort of is its own spoiler, but I'm also guessing there's a little bit of bias in the Wikipedia retelling here because the only army they portray as at all formidable is the only one that's led by white dudes. Right? And this is a war that killed tens of millions of people. So there were definitely more than a couple of good people killers involved in this thing. But anyway, the Honky-led army repulsed the Taiping attack on Shanghai in 1860 and then rebuffed the second attack in 1862.
I love it. White history is the best. Apparently, like, just the Stay Puffed Marshmallow Man just beat the shit out of millions of Chinese guys 2 different times.
Heath and I actually went to that bar in Japan, though. It was sensual.
It was, and sticky.
Yes.
So this
Fluffernutter is not what
It
you
is
think.
not. You can order one, but you got to fucking mean it.
You
It's
need
exactly
the,
what I think it means.
The whole time your cock is pixelated.
It's amazing how they can do that on the fly. The technology here is amazing.
Weird.
So anyway, so this defeat.
I hope it goes back.
You leave, you start rearranging the dots. You're like, go back, go back.
It's like one of those. It's like one of those slides that you have to move around. It's got one bit. It's
like a mosaic.
Yeah, I gotta put it back in the right. I'm not good at these kind of puzzles. I
It's like 8-bit Nintendo. You got to blow on it. You got to blow on it through the shirt.
Not true.
So back when I was talking about this Chinese war, there was a turning point. And from there on,
Pixelated penis.
the King's forces, I'm sorry, not the King's forces, the King forces worked their way down the Yangtze River and gobbled up all the lands that the rebels tenuously controlled. And by 1864, there were only a couple of small strongholds left, most notably, of course, in Nanjing. Hong Jiquan declared that Nanjing would be fine on account of God's protection, but ultimately God turned out to be wrong.
Yeah, but in 1862, God was busy protecting slavery in the United States.
Well,
So-
no, right, yeah.
God wasn't wrong. He was just distracted. It's not like he's omnipotent. Oh.
Yeah.
You see, yeah, all falls apart when you.
I'm just picturing him lying in bed, ignoring Hong's calls. Who is that? Nothing, Sherman. Come back to bed. I want to cuddle. I don't want breakfast. I want some cuddles from my friend Sherman. When are we going to get brunch with my friends?
Friends are the worst.
Now, I could tell you from experience, younger brothers never get the coolest anything. So Hong didn't get to die on a cross with a spear wound in his guts or anything. Instead, he would die of food poisoning that he got from eating raw vegetables while the city was running out of food. And apparently it wasn't like a quick into the wild type of poisoning. He apparently hung on for 20 days before getting around to dying here.
Which must have been so fun to watch. For
Really?
Like the AIDS. Just 3 weeks of some guy preaching about God's plan while he's having projectile diarrhea and dying.
And for that, and if that, you're like, wow, that'd be fun to watch.
Yeah, guys just
Visually.
like, and I say unto you, oh boy, here we go. Let the Lord know that sweet baby Jesus, it's hot. It's hot. It burns.
I just feel like the takeaway here is no vegetables. Noted. I got
Yeah,
the no
no, right.
vegetables.
That's the important thing if you take anything from this essay. And while there were skirmishes and outright battles for almost a decade to come, the rebellion pretty much died with Jesus' little brother. Of course, dead or not, the rulers wanted to punish him. So once they took the city, they had his body exhumed and cremated. Then they put his ashes in a cannon and fired them off because fuck that guy.
That's awesome. That's going in my will. I just want to say on the record, that's it. None of you will outlive me, but if you did, that's it.
I should note, by the way, that China didn't return to like peace and stability after this or anything. Basically, they'd take a nation that was divided and factioned and poorly governed and turn it into one of those full of weapons and war-hardened veterans. So the next decade or two of Chinese history is filled with army groups that just like turned to banditry after the war, and there's like minor upstart kingdoms started by popular military leaders. Basically, we start and end with a kung fu movie premise.
Right, but then Jet Li gets within 10 steps of the guy who's in charge of the most of it. You know the rest of the story. It's pretty fucking sweet.
Yeah, right. He started a sovereign nation out of a birding hut and got lots of big black rubber dicks.
So now the estimates are all over the map on this one, and there weren't great records or censuses at the time, but the most widely cited sources put the total number of civilian and military deaths at between 20 and 30 million, most of them through famine and plague. That would make it, on the low end, the 5th deadliest conflict in human history after only World War II, the Mongol conquest, the Qing conquest that put the incompetent fucks in charge in the first place, and the Spanish conquest of the Aztec Empire. Now, some historians believe the number to be closer to 100 million, which would make this a legitimate contender for the single deadliest armed conflict in human history.
Yeah, but what's 3/5 of 100 million, though?
Oh, Jesus.
Eli, if you get this right, I'll buy you a house. You have 5 seconds.
350 million.
So close. Not that close.
Because negative numbers, they were losing.
Negative
people.
numbers?
I wanted a house. I wanted a house.
Explain the what?
No, it's
They were dying.
No, it's not. No. His next essay will be on negative numbers. It's worth noting, by the way, that Chinese attitudes on this war have shifted quite a bit over the centuries, or over the decades, I should say. The history is written immediately after it treated the Taiping rebels as nothing more than power-hungry zealots. But modern China looks back at them a lot more sympathetically, what with all the proto-communism that they were trying to enforce. In fact, about the only thing that Chinese historians seem to agree on about this war over the last 150 years or so is that it would be a terribly inappropriate subject for a lighthearted dick joke show. Bad.
Chinese historian angrily taking out his earbuds. You're damn right it is. Unsubscribe.
Sklybe.
You're such an asshole.
I didn't know if you had to summarize what you've learned in one sentence, what would it be?
That you can't keep Eli away from the racist jokes. You can try. But what I originally wrote was everybody was kung fu fighting was based on actual historical events. I did not know that.
All right. Well, since you made it all the way through a 2-decade war, only mentioning one actual battle and 2 place names, I guess it's fair to say that you're an expert now. Are you ready to put that expertise to test with questions from our panel?
I believe I am ready, sir.
All right, let me get started. Throughout history, religious leaders have been persecuted for some innocuous events. Which of the following is one of those events? A, the Jonestown Kool-Aid nap time and story hour.
Such a shitty thing to say.
B, the Heaven's Gate meteor bridal shower. C, the Branch Davidians' first annual family reunion and barbecue. Or D, the Manson family emergency appendectomy.
Well, if the answer wasn't A, no person of good consciousness could have even said that. So I'm going to say it must be, because otherwise you would have had to make that up, and that would make you a pretty fucked up.
That'd be horrible.
It'd be
That'd be
A,
horrible.
the Jonestown Kool-Aid nap time and story hour.
Absolutely true. Thanks so much for not making me a horrible person, Noah. I appreciate that.
All right, Noah. Which of the following is the best title for the biography of Hong Ji-quan, the Chinese white supremacist? Is it A, Uncle Hong's Cabin? Is it B, The Gong Curve?
That's a great
so
joke.
good.
That's a great joke. Such a good joke.
Or is it C, Lo Mein Kampf?
That works better on the page.
So
Everybody imagine the page.
I'm gonna go with B. That was a thinker. Gong curve.
That is correct.
Yeah.
All right. Noah, white people generally don't know any of this happened. 100 million people. We had no idea. Why? A, because there's no oil in China.
Yeah.
B, because if it didn't happen here, it might not have happened.
Yeah.
C, if we think all these people look alike, it doesn't help that all their names sound the same.
Tom's extra racist than all the rest of us now.
There were still enough Chinese guys around to build our railroads, so no harm, no foul to white people. No harm, no foul to the white people.
I feel like we have a racist sorting hat we just keep passing around.
All right. Let's see. China is the 4th leading oil producer, so it's not A. Could be any of these other 3.
From the very bottom of my heart, buddy.
I'm going to go with C because otherwise Tom would have had to make that up and say that on purpose.
Yeah,
and that so it
racist.
must be.
Tom's
Yeah.
not a racist.
No, so it must be C, must be the answer.
Sure, let's go with that.
Okay, so obviously, Taiping Rebellion doesn't really describe the conflict super well. Lots of very not racist people could get confused, do a hilarious opening sketch that a lot of people would interpret the wrong way. Some people would chicken out of. So, what's a better name for the Taiping Rebellion? Is it A, the Tanjing Taiping Yanqing murder thing? B, the rise and fall of Risus. Sorry, I just needed to use the Risus joke again. It's too good. Just a reminder to everybody, Risus, Heath's joke. Or C, the Great Holocaust. Still starring Matt Damon. Still stars Matt Damon. Not a lot of people know that.
All right, based on the spelling alone, I have to go with the Taiping Nanking murder thing.
Based on the spelling, you could have gone with any of them. Or anything Eli wrote.
All right, well, nobody managed to stump Noah or however any of this works. He wins, I guess. And that means he picks who does next week's essay for reasons that I don't understand at all.
Well, thank you, Tom. I'm glad my victory could vex you. And I choose Eli to do next week's essay just so that Tom has to try to decipher his hieroglyphic onomatopoeia-based language scrawlings.
Oh, it isn't just Tom.
Yeah, that's great. Setting off background on this plane sure will show me. So, all right. Before we go, I'll toss this over to Sarah for last week's Twitter answer and this week's Twitter question.
Thanks, Tom. Last week's question was, what banned substance would actually be worth rioting for? The winner was Jim Sweatpants on Twitter with this answer. Eli's Citation Pod episode on JonBenet Ramsey. You say that, but you haven't seen the diagrams, Jim. This week's question is, what kind of fights did Jesus and his little brother have when they were kids? Just retweet or Facebook share this episode with your answer for a chance to be next week's winner. Back to you, Tom.
All right. Well, for Cecil, Eli, Heath, and Noah, I'm Tom. Thank you for hanging out with us today. We'll be back next week, and by then, Eli will be an expert on something else. Between now and then, you can hear more from Cecil and me on Cognitive Dissonance, and if you still need something to listen to once you've exhausted our backlogs, maybe you can listen to more of Noah, Heath, and Eli on The Scathing Atheist, God Awful Movies, and The Skeptocrat. And if you'd like to help keep this show going, you can make a per-episode donation at patreon.com/citationpod, or leave us a 5-star review everywhere you can. And if you'd like to get in touch with us, check out past episodes, connect with us on social media, or check the show notes. Be sure to check out citationpod.com.
I quit the skit ahead of time. Does anybody else want to take the red?
Nope.
Anyone want to take the red?
Nope.
No, I've got this green that I have.
Yeah.
I was gonna do
pink
I had
the
the
green.
green. The
Well,
green is.
I get
yeah.
2 lines, so
Loving this
I'm
pink.
good.
You want to do that? You want to switch yellow, red?
No, it wouldn't be appropriate. No, sorry. Yeah, doesn't make
Too
sense.
weird.
It's like taking your Beth math student off the math problem. You got to keep the racist on the racist stuff. That's the key.
I like Asian people. It's not reasonable for.
Hookers are not
damn it.
people.
Oh, shit. Not after you get through them.
Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds. At Mint Mobile, we like to do the opposite of what Big Wireless does. They charge you a lot, we charge you a little. So naturally, when they announced they'd be raising their prices due to inflation, we decided to deflate our prices due to not hating you. That's right. We're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.